Hi, and welcome to the CAFMA Connect. I'm your host, Fire Chief Scott Freitag, and back with me today, my good friend, EMS Chief Doug Niemynski. Hi, Doug.
Is this number 5?
Pretty close, yeah. I think it's pretty close. And I need to remind you, for Jonah, you need to just sit up in the chair like you are now, close to the mic, because you have a tendency to go backwards. And that's the wrong direction.
I'm not a podcast expert yet.
Yeah, but you're getting there. You're getting there. So, Doug, we want to talk today a little bit about the rescues that we just received, but I think it would be good to start by identifying for the public, for our folks, what is the actual difference between an ambulance and a rescue?
So for our purposes, it boils down to billing purposes. We do not bill because we do not have a CON. So legally, we can't bill for service. Ambulance companies and those that have a CON can bill for a transport. Right. So if we were to ever get a CON, we would still call them rescues, but we would have that ability at the end of the day to bill the insurance.
So really, what we call a rescue is an ambulance. They're the same type of vehicle.
They carry all the same stuff.
Right.
Yeah, they do the same thing.
It's the exact same vehicle. The difference is in the state of Arizona, an ambulance is a certificated, licensed operator, ambulance provider, transport provider in the state, and they can bill for services. We have to call them rescues because they're not certified by the state because we don't have a CON. However, we do have the need to transport patients from time to time, but we can't call them ambulances because the state wants that the name differentiated.
It's
which is
legal jargon,
weird.
you know.
It is. So really, they're the same thing. One can bill, one can't. One, the state doesn't really mess with when they transport, and the other one, the state and AMR tend to balk on occasion, although they've calmed down lately regarding that.
Part of the process, too, if we were to get the CON, the licensing part, the state comes up and does an actual inspection, make sure, they're safe to operate, that you have a certain number of items on inventory it's pretty down to the very finite detail.
Well, and we're going to be in good shape in that regard because we are about ready to return Mesa's borrowed equipment back to them because we have bought.
So we've got 2 so far brand new units, and we've got the used one from Northwest, which is now, I think, officially ours because we put our stickers on it and everything.
We have officially transferred title on that. So we have 4 ambulance-looking vehicles that we call rescues. That
3 that we have with us right now.
Correct.
The 4th one is still some kind of a recall on the fuel system.
Supply chain recall, fuel pump, supposed to be to us in the first quarter of this year, which ended in March.
So we're still waiting for that one.
We're still waiting. Supply chain issues.
The first one's in service in Station 62 in Chino.
The first brand new one.
Yeah, that's Rescue 62. That's the medics. Very top of the line, very nice unit.
So tell me about it. What for the public, what do we have on it currently? How would it be used? And what do you think of that particular transport?
So that particular Rescue 62, if anybody wants to see it, it's Road 2 South in Chino Valley, kind of across the street from where Maverick is. And this unit is made by MedX. It was one of their demo units, so they put a lot of bells and whistles on it that normally we probably wouldn't ask to put on.
Right.
But that being said, it's a very large unit. It's got a lot of room, a lot of cabinet space to the point where we stocked it full of all of the gear that we felt necessary, and there's still some extra room that is available. So very nice unit for providers to sit back there and give patient care. There's a CPR seat, so you have a dedicated space for somebody to do chest compressions. A lot of smaller units don't have that. Not me.
No, it's me.
So, a lot of room. You can stand up in there. Maybe a very tall person might hit their head, but there's a lot of room to stand up. There's safety features with seat belts for the providers where they can actually have the good seatbelt and work on a patient. And if there were an accident,
it's like a multi-point harness.
It is.
There, isn't it?
It's kind of like what you're using in your Jeeps and stuff.
What I need in my Jeep after I rolled it on its side, not my fault. digressing. So what's the chassis on that unit? Which chassis is it?
So 62 has a Ford, your favorite F550 chassis. So
Right.
it's a heavy truck chassis with a box type ambulance on the back. And they call
Right.
that a Type 1.
So what have you learned from, because we've never had these before, or at least not in the time that I've been here,
We haven't had anything like this.
or that you've been the EMS chief. So what have you learned in putting this unit together so far?
Lots of different things. What's good is we already run EMS calls. And so what we use on the fire trucks, because we have paramedics on every engine. So
Right.
it's the same equipment. We just had to make it fit right for this rescue, I should say.
Right. Yes, we want to be
Edit that
legal.
out, Jonah. Anyway, so one thing we did differently, there's one large equipment bag, and it's red. It has all the stuff that you would need to go inside someone's house, or
Right.
you could even hike up a mountain. It has backpack straps and stuff. But we put it all into this one bag instead of having separate stuff like what the engines carry. They have two separate boxes, one airway and one trauma.
Okay.
And then the monitor, the drug box. So on the rescues right now, we've put the bag, the equipment bag, a drug box. We don't have enough spare monitors at this time to necessarily put them full time on the rescues.
Right.
We could do it in a specific need. Like if we
Okay.
wanted to staff the rescue for the day, we do have units. We have extra monitors.
Right.
But those extra monitors we also send to wildland fires and stuff like that for the off-district team.
Right.
So anyway, we do have several spare monitors. EPCRs, we're in the process of getting the iPads. We use iPads for documentation purposes.
So just for people who don't know what EPCR is, what does that mean?
It's electronic patient care reporting. It's the standard how we're supposed to document our encounters. There's a lot of rules about what you need to collect, what you did on the call, and so forth. So we use an iPad with image trend software on it, and a lot of agencies are using that same system.
Right.
So we use that. It automatically uploads the chart. The patient chart goes to the hospital as well as the state of Arizona after we complete it. So
Okay.
it's really a seamless transition
Right.
from us to them. And that's really nice.
Yeah, which is super nice, because when I was a medic on the ambulance, it was go to the hospital, take your paper form out in triplicate, write your patient care report, get everything down, leave a copy with the hospital, take it back, then log into the computer reporting system and fill out your report.
Yeah, do you
the
remember
computer
having
reporting.
how small you had to try to write just to fit it all?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah, there
it's
wasn't a lot of room.
No. This is way better.
And, the interesting thing is, though, we have more space to write, and we tend to find that some of the medics write less.
True that. The other kind of neat part about technology, so those monitors we were talking about, we use Physio Control LifePak 15 monitors. They take vital signs. They also, we do 12-lead EKGs so we can tell if somebody's having a cardiac event. But it also monitors airway function. It's capnography, which people probably won't understand, but it basically how your lungs are functioning. And
It measures the O2 in the bloodstream.
SpO2 is part of it as well,
Right.
and it does blood pressure, pulse rate. All those things that we do on that monitor get uploaded into the cloud, and then we download them onto the EPCR. And so I could open up a patient
Right.
chart. Say if I took you to the hospital, we could open your chart up, and we'll see your 12-lead EKG on there. We'll see your vitals. We'll see anything that monitor did. It's there, and so it's a very great functionality between the different parts.
Technology is amazing when it works.
At YRMC, the hospital, they provide the cloud system that when we send a 12-lead, it goes to the hospital, and then they activate their cath lab off of it. And then the doctors and the nurses and everybody get ready for surgery based on what they're seeing from that. And it's just really cool.
It's a pretty
quick
amazing
it is.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have any of that.
We used to take a picture with your cell phone and have to send a picture to a certain website at the
Right.
hospital. And then they would look at it and be like, oh yeah, we need a cath lab, So things
We
have come a long way.
We didn't even have cell phones.
Yeah, when I first started, we didn't have those
Yeah,
either.
we're dating ourselves. Moving on.
Yeah.
So we still have some equipment we don't keep on there full time, and the reason that we don't is because they're not full ambulances yet, so we can't bill
staff
for them. Which means we can't staff them all the time. We still try to backfill them if we have a day that is particularly bad with no units available. We may try to staff them, but more often than now, what we're doing is tagging them along on an EMS call when the captain knows that the system is down.
It's been down a little bit today. They've been needing a few of them. The other time that we may staff them is if we have an extra person on the engine.
Right.
And that allows them to put that extra person on the rescue, and it's ready. I've heard that Rescue 62 responded here to Prescott Valley.
It did recently.
They didn't transport, but they did make it here. So good to know that, we have some more capability.
Right. Well, and there will be a social media post with that radio traffic out soon. Because we think it's important for the public to understand the challenges that we face in this area with ambulance transport. And that's why we have these rescues, because when we look at transporting a patient to the hospital, a sick patient, a critical patient, even a non-critical patient, transporting in an engine, transporting in the patient's private vehicle, transporting in anything other than an appropriate transport unit, which would be a rescue/ambulance, could be detrimental to patient care. There's a lot of safety concerns that go into that, liability concerns. So we felt, given the situation we have in our area, that it was important for us to have these. And we had proof of concept after having MESA's units for an extended period of time, as well as Northwest's Fires unit. So let's talk about the Northwest unit for a moment. That one, Northwest Fire loaned to us. And then ultimately they said, hey, we're going to surplus that thing. And so we worked with them to make that purchase. So what is that one's now Rescue 53. What is that unit?
Correct. Rescue 53 is stationed here at Station 53 in Prescott Valley. It is still a Type 1 unit. It's a Chevy heavy truck. I think it's a 5500, but I couldn't find the documentation on the door.
Okay.
However, the nice thing about this unit, it has the auto load functionality for the gurney, meaning our folks, when we have a patient on the gurney, you get them to the back of the ambulance, and basically that auto load will put the gurney back into the back of the ambulance, and our guys or gals are not using their backs to help lift this patient up. And so it prevents a lot of back injuries, and that's very important for us. And in EMS, it's kind of like one of those things that it's not if you're going to hurt your back, it's when. And so I'll tell you what, I'm super stoked to have an auto load, a power load. And next year we're talking about getting that functionality for some of our other rescues. And
it is someone with significant back issues as a result of years in the fire service and the old Furno cots that were all manual.
Pinch your fingers all the time.
Yep. And they would collapse on you when you had a heavy patient, and they'd just yank you forward. That is one of those things that it's spendy getting that system, but workers' comp is even more spendy, and the long-term issues created by back problems are far more costly than just buying those units. So this one is a Chevrolet unit. It's a 2008. Is that correct?
I'm not real sure about what year it is. It's definitely a used vehicle. It had, I think a little less than 100,000 miles on it.
Right.
But it's in good shape, and our guys said it runs well. They've used it quite a bit, and no complaints that I've heard. Yeah, no, it's a good unit. It's the only one of the units that we run that's red. It is. Because Northwest had a red one, and should we get the CON and in the future order ambulances, they will likely be red because the red ambulances are cool. And it's the only one with the power load. Yes, and the power load. Yeah. Power load and red would be awesome. So the other one that we have possession of, also one of my favorites, a Ford F450. Yep. And when I say favorites, because we had to buy a Chevrolet tow truck to make sure we can get the rescues around town, or a Ram tow truck, either way. Yeah. We have mechanics for that, True. So tell us about that unit, because that one's different. That's a wheeled coach, correct? So we used two separate vendors. We were really struggling to find anything to buy. Right. And I think that's across the whole industry right now. It is. So we did end up buying demo models, which Wheeled Coach had this one, and then the Medics had two. The Wheeled Coach one is now at maintenance getting the gurney fitment. It didn't have it installed.
Okay.
So our guys had to go in there and actually put the parts in to hold the
Right.
gurney, and that's a pretty involved process. So they've learned how to do that this year. So now as we get new ones, as time moves on, they have a
We'll be
new
better
skill.
at it. Right.
So that's cool. That one is just about ready. We're waiting on 2 small parts to lock the gurney in. They, for some reason, were not part of the shipment that we received.
Okay.
So about another week out for that, and then we should have that unit stocked with EMS goods. And then still waiting on a couple things coming in on the EMS goods side too. We're really struggling getting even soft supplies right now.
Right.
Which that's really new for us. We've never struggled to buy, disposable EMS goods until recently, and it's not good.
Supply chain.
Yeah.
Bring the work back to the United States.
Oh, man.
It doesn't sit in the harbor when it's made here. So for you entrepreneurs out there, business opportunities in the medical field, you make a killing.
So that unit, when it is finished, will go to 58, which it's going to be like middle of Prescott Valley, a very good spot to run calls. It'll be closest unit a lot of times to calls that originate here in Prescott Valley.
And that is the medics unit and this wheeled coach unit are both 4-wheel drives.
Correct.
Which is important. We wanted all 4-wheel drive, but the used one from Northwest and the Ram chassis are not 4-wheel drive because that's all we could get. But and people who aren't familiar with Prescott may say, well, why do you need 4-wheel drive? Well, we do get snow up here from time to time. But also we have to look at the monsoon season, and some of the areas we respond to aren't really roads.
The mud can be tremendous. Paulden has a lot of those areas that we respond to. Dewey Humboldt, same thing. You may be crossing, not necessarily floodwaters, but definitely water crossings when the creeks are running to get to a call.
So the 4-wheel drive is definitely the way to go. Now the wheeled coach is a smaller unit, and it has less bells and whistles. Sorry,
less
fewer
cabinet
bells
space
and
too.
Whistles.
Yeah.
But it seems like that would be closer to a spec that we might write for future units.
I think so too. And then when we get the Dodge in, we need to compare those two because they're going to be the similar size, and then we need to decide on which one fits us the best.
Similar size but different manufacturers, so different design. One is wheeled coach, the other the Ram is medics as well. The 2-wheel drive. Heard a lot of good things about the Rams as far as a chassis for ambulances. I know a lot of folks have changed from Ford to Ram, and we were hoping to do that, but couldn't. I think one of the things that I noticed on Rescue 62 when I looked at it at Fleet was the angle of departure. And I don't think many people in the community really understand those are things that we actually look at.
You get that thing in the wrong kind of a driveway or a ditch, it's going to touch, and you're gonna rip something off, like the bumper or something.
I've already asked Fleet to purchase some extra bumpers because I just know we're going to rip them off.
And that unit is the largest one that we have, and so it's going to happen at some point to that unit for sure. We just got to be real careful and not put it in any situations that we can't get through.
Right. And in the Chino area, that particular unit will respond to calls that are further away from the hospital. So having a little more room, more people to operate will be better and a safer environment given the CPR seat and some of the other things that are in it. Some of the bells and whistles just aren't things we would look at.
Yeah, there's a countdown timer, which is kind of gee whiz. It's nice when you're doing certain skills, especially like CPR, where you want to give epinephrine every 3 to 5 minutes. You could set a timer and it will go off, and it's a visual timer that's in the back of that rig. Okay, it's time to do epi, but we all do that with our phones, and guys have figured it out already. So we have apps on our phones that have those timers built in to do that without having to pay extra for it to be in a rescue.
And you can do that voice command on the phone.
Yeah.
Hey, say the name, because I have 2 of those phones in here. I don't want them to answer me. Set a timer for 5 minutes.
One of the other things too, and we should think about this for in the future, a lot of agencies are moving to a gasoline engine because the diesel costs and stuff and the maintenance is just more expensive.
Well, and that's what I'm hearing about the new diesels is that There seem to be more problems with them, and once they hit 100,000 miles, you really start having some maintenance issues with the DEF and everything else that's in them. I'm actually thinking of moving my personal truck from a diesel to a gas motor next time I buy. So it's something that we will take a look at. I think all of the other 3/4 ton pickups we buy here are gas motors. So if we move to a chassis with a similar gas motor, again, it gets back to that Southwest Airlines model that we're trying to follow, where if we have a truck, it's this truck and it's this motor. If we have an ambulance, it's this chassis and it's this motor. And
then our maintenance folks would really appreciate that at Fleet. I
right.
mean, because they're going to be working on these things, making sure that they're safe, doing, they'll buy all the extra brake parts so that we can bring them in and they can just swap it out real quick.
Right.
Because we're going to need these things back in a reasonable amount of time. We can't wait that long.
So where are we on our CON process? I know you and I talked the other day.
I haven't heard any updates since we submitted our second round of questions. So we submitted the application, and then the state came back with, okay, we have additional needs, and we filled out all that information and resubmitted it. And it's kind of in limbo there. They're supposed to ask any further questions they may have, and then I believe we go to rates reviews after that.
Well, and so we've been through application submittal, initial review, which we didn't get any questions on. They determined that the application was complete. Substantive review, they sent 3 pages of bullet-pointed questions that we answered, and we responded back in the beginning of February. And now we wait and see if they have additional questions. A lot of folks out there know that we're working on licensing reform, and this is one of the reasons we're working on it, because that total review time for the Bureau of EMS in the state of Arizona, they're provided 440 days to go through an application, which is kind of ridiculous. There's no need for 440 days, but it's not just those 440 days. It's 440 days for that. Then there's an intervener process where you go through a court or a hearing in front of an administrative law judge. That's 10 days, but not 10 consecutive days. So you can stretch that out 1 day a month over a 10-month period and really extend that. So when I ran the numbers the other day, it was like over 600 days in the current process, just based on the number of days that exist and not even trying to figure in the administrative law judge hearing part of the process. Our process, with all of that figured in, 5 consecutive days is like 355.
Which is still a long time when there's an issue in your community that we're trying to help resolve.
Absolutely. It is absolutely still too long. With this, though, we are also looking at appropriation to get DHS some needed additional personnel.
That'd
because
be great.
We know that the Bureau is understaffed. We get that. But not staffing the Bureau properly is a detriment to the health and well-being of Arizonans across the state, because there's not a timely process to get these things done. And when a community like ours is facing an ambulance crisis, there's not a lot we can do, and it's a long process.
Well, and it sounds like it's more than just our community. It's a statewide issue.
It absolutely is.
And so this state's continuing to grow at a very rapid rate, not just our community. And I'm sure we're not going to be the last people looking to help resolve this problem.
No, as a matter of fact, the rescue model that we're following, actually, I got that model from City of Casa Grande Fire Department, who's been doing this for years because of the same problems. And then Lake Havasu City doing the same thing because of the same problems. Kingman facing the same issues. Northwest Fire District years ago faced the same issues and put up similar rescues to try to bridge the gap. So this is what we've done is not uncommon. It's been done before in the state in situations where communities are having difficulty. And we are seeing a few more Lifeline units on the road, but what we're finding are brand new EMTs just out of school put together on an ambulance that have never been in the field. And we're seeing some challenges with that. great people,
Yeah.
trying really hard, but
Enthusiastic people.
Right.
They don't have a lot of driving experience too, so some of
Right.
our guys have been a little scared riding in.
Right.
We have to send our medics in a lot of times because it's a BLS rig, and if the patient requires skills that the BLS providers can't do, then we ride in. I mean, we have to.
Let's hit that just real quick. So talked to Engine 58, Captain Postula, the other day, and he ran 6 EMS calls. I think it was Wednesday last week. He said 5 of which were BLS units. So 5 times our paramedic had to ride in. Apparently, all the paramedics that AMR had, they were focusing on the city of Prescott. I guess that's what happens when you upset the apple cart by pointing out deficiencies in the system.
And they have that contract with the city.
Yeah, they send the paramedics somewhere else. But we had a critical call, and our paramedic was the only paramedic, but it was a critical call that actually should have been at minimum 2 paramedics. And so we had our paramedic and our EMT that rode in on the ambulance, and according to our paramedic, it was a detriment to patient care. He felt very frustrated. He felt kind of lost because he needed assistance that he couldn't get because that level of skill wasn't there. So the idea that running BLS ambulances in this system is okay is a fallacy. It's not accurate.
And I think a lot of that, we're just going to have to deal with the BLS stuff because they cannot hire any medics for whatever reason, if it's they don't want to work for them or if it's a statewide issue. And I've heard that many agencies across the state are having trouble hiring. And it's not just in EMS, it's anybody hiring right now.
Yeah, it's having trouble hiring.
If we get a CON and we're going to have to hire paramedics and EMTs, it'll be interesting to see, and hopefully having a strong workplace will help us to attract people.
Well, and I think that's one of the issues that they've run into. They've lost a lot of good paramedics who have left out of frustration with the company. And so I'm not going to give them a pass on not having medics because it's hard to hire them. When you create an environment where you treat people right, they tend to stay. When you create an environment where you simply use people up and take everything you can from them, they tend to leave.
Yeah.
And so that is a work environment issue that's been created within that company. So that's on them. So I appreciate you trying to step in for them, but they've created a problem within their own company, and that's their issue.
Well, and I just don't see that problem resolving itself anytime soon. I mean, I know that there's a lot of those EMT students. In fact, I think Chief Tharp's son got hired. So good for him. I mean, it's a great place to get some experience, and he's going to run a lot of calls.
Yeah. Well, there may be a light at the end of the tunnel for us that we're not at liberty to talk about currently. Hopefully, someone will send out the information publicly in short order. It doesn't have to do with CAFMA specifically, but would definitely provide some relief up here and be a huge win for our area when that comes out. But Doug, I appreciate you being on today. I promised you I wouldn't take a lot of shots at AMR. And I didn't take a lot because I had more to say based on the stakeholders meeting we had the other day with and Mr. Glenn Kasperzik, one of their CEO type people, was in there, and just listening to him is like fingernails on a chalkboard. But because I promised you to be good this time, we will end it here.
No personal attacks.
No, I'm not. No. Jim and I have significant personal disagreements regarding how things should work.
And really do appreciate you being down there at the state trying to change the way these laws are written, because they were definitely written for the benefit of private ambulance, in my opinion,
without a doubt,
over the public and the fire departments having anything to do with it. And, we're trying to make some positive changes and help the system get better. And I know we have the support of a lot of agencies. Right.
Well, and they were written by private companies, but here's the rub. Some people think that we're doing this just to help fire districts and fire departments out. And the reality is that the statutes prevent other private entities from trying to come into the market because it creates a financial roadblock. I have to say, someone from the Department of Health Services and the Bureau of EMS in one of the stakeholders meetings said, the legal expenses you're complaining about as a roadblock are a choice because you can represent yourself in a court proceeding.
Good luck.
That's not brilliant in any way. Just saying. So, Doug, thank you for coming in today. Fatima thanks you because he's on vacation, so he just bailed. But I think it's good to give an update on what the rescues are, where they're at, how they're being utilized, and when we can expect to have the rest in service, as well as what's on those units. Always good to educate the public and let our folks know what our plans are.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to see them, stop by any of the stations. So 53 right now has one. 62 has the brand new one, and soon to be 58 as well.
58 will have a brand new one, and 61's using a used unit.
Yes.
Still, the best of the two POSs that we still have.
It's bad.
Yeah. So, but hopefully soon we'll get that other unit and it'll be in service. So, again, thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe, whether you're on YouTube or one of the other platforms. We appreciate you tuning in.